And again, as we've been able to do every week, which I love so much, the very light-hearted Miss Marvel finale.
The complete change of tone.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say straight off the bat, I bitch and moaned about every single Marvel finale.
You have. I've been
And
here.
don't get me wrong, as a Raw episode, this was not the best finale. However, compared to the other episodes in the series, I think this was the only finale that wasn't a drop-off in quality.
Okay.
Yeah? So this finale didn't take the entire series and just be a bit worse than it. This was just as good as the rest of the series, if not a bit better.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I also feel like the pacing in this finale
it was so good.
so much
good.
better than all the other finales.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we said a couple of the episodes earlier felt a little bit off pacing wise, which I think allowed this episode's pacing to be good.
Agreed.
So that's still a problem that needs to be fixed. But I feel like a finale is the lasting impression you get. So it's important that it's a good one. I'm trying really hard not to jump to the end of the episode because this has melted my brain and it needs to be discussed. But I'm going to try and review the episode as it should be done first. So we get the hilarious scene quite near the beginning of Kamala coming out to her family as a superhero.
Yeah, and
obviously, it's already been leaked throughout the family.
Yeah, because parents are terrible with technology.
Yep.
I think everyone can relate.
Which is just, it's really funny, but it's also so relatable.
Yeah.
How often have you had big news that you've told one family member and you're like, but don't tell everyone, I want to tell everyone together. And then everyone already knows before you get to do it. Oh. It happens all the time.
And how many parents have you got that have start watching something on Facebook full blast? Like their volume on their phones and stuff are always full volume, so you just hit everything.
Yeah, or your parents on the phone just screaming down the phone because they don't understand the phone does the work for them. So I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
I would like to give a shout out to the homie Bruno for, despite the fact that Conron, I mean, he hasn't been horrible to him, but like he's not been nice to him. He doesn't like him, but he instantly is like, okay, shit, you're in trouble. Let me help. Shout out the homie Bruno, absolute G. So then we get like the phone call from Nakia going, do you know where Bruno is? I'm worried.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of leads into what's going to be our conflict. Okay, cool. Kamran and Bruno are on the run from damage control. They need help.
Yep.
I adore the fact that her suit was actually made in Pakistan and her mum got it made for her.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that was beautiful.
And there's so much detail in it that you can
such
tell.
A nice suit.
Like the patterning and stuff is clearly taken from like Pakistani materials and their clothing and stuff. So they really put thought into it.
So nice. So nice. Although it doesn't look like as armored as the one that was used in the promotion work, which is really interesting to me.
I feel like the promotion one,
it looked like really metally and armored, didn't it?
I think what they did on the promotion stuff though is they mixed a bit of that like one that Bruno made, maybe, because that seemed more armory. It seems like because they would obviously they kind of want to keep their so I feel like they've like had alternate suits that they use for promo and stuff just to throw
quite
people
possibly off. So then we get like the really fun and funny, and I mean I'll get onto people's criticism of Thor being a comedy in a minute, but it was just a really funny scene of them in the school like setting up their plan, and her brother just appearing out of nowhere like, Mum sent me to help. Killed me. Really, really funny. It was like, Mum said I had to come help.
Well, also let's not forget there's just before that when she's going to find, there's all the stuff that happens at the mosque.
Oh yeah, at the mosque again, brilliant.
So also
they burst open the door and everyone's just got their ID ready.
Yeah, brilliant. And they're like, this is not our first rodeo. But also like something you might not, I don't know if you picked up on, but once she gets the suit off her mum, and she leaves, she's obviously running on a little platform thing through the air.
Yeah.
Thought it was great that she stopped at a red light. I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah. I would
Very
just
like
like to see
Spider-Man vibes of like going through a city.
one thing I did notice with that red light. There was a street sign on it. Did you see what it said?
I didn't notice the street sign.
It said Grove Street,
Okay.
which was obviously the main street of San Andreas. And obviously the joke is if someone's a truly good person, they follow the stoplights even when they're playing GTA.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
It might not
I'm
be
completely
intentional,
misreading that, but that made me chuckle to myself. I was like, because she's such a good person, she'd even stop for a red light in GTA.
So the thing I want to point out, and I'm doing this because people slate Marvel a lot of the time for their CGI, especially in their shows.
Marvel's getting to the point where, whereas it used to be they could do no wrong, apparently now they can do no right.
The digital, that whole thing of her running through the sky is a digital double.
Yeah, it looked clean as fuck.
It was done amazingly. Like, as someone who obviously understands VFX, I obviously knew that's a digital double. There's slight tells, but that whole scene of her running through the sky and then the transition from her coming down to ground level was a clean transition to the actual actress. And I think people give Marvel too much of a hard time for their VFX sometimes.
I think if people knew how much of the Marvel films were actually CGI, they would realize how good the CGI actually is. They focus on one or two weaker moments, not realizing all the stuff they don't even realize is CGI.
This was something I heard recently, and it was like, CGI in films is like, you are going for an A star, and anything less is classed as a failure, because people only notice the like the 5 to 10% that might be slightly off. They don't notice the other 80 to 90% of VFX that are there and are done perfectly. And it's like always trying to get an A star, and it's just like impossible.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Obviously, I know you're not a big football guy, but in football, it's like good goalkeepers or goalkeepers in general only get remembered for their mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that's what everyone talks about. Everyone expects a goalkeeper to save everything. When they make a mistake that costs a goal, that's what everyone talks about. It's the exact same with VFX. Everyone focuses on the tiny little missteps.
Yeah, they don't see the thousands of other VFX shots that they didn't even notice.
They don't realize all that stuff that like, oh my God, that's such a nice scene. It's like, 80% like CGI as well. You just don't realize.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode was really, really good.
I thought it was funny.
Really enjoyed it.
It was the leaving the mask. It's like, quick, you need disguises, and he just puts 2 caps on them.
The halal and haram fucking killed me.
Yeah, but also it's like, I feel like that's a bit of a throwback to the whole Steve Rogers just puts a cap on for a disguise, and it's like, it works.
Well, here's the thing, like that's already been joked about in the MCU before.
Yeah,
so, like it was a really big thing of everyone going, oh, I wish Marvel would be a bit more realistic. A hat isn't a disguise. And then in Far From Home, you have a scene where Tom Holland walks across, and in the background, Jake Gyllenhaal walks across with a hat on. And like 1 in 10 people even noticed that shot in the cinema. I was one of them people. No one will believe me saying that. I did notice Jake Gyllenhaal in the background, but loads of people didn't. Which is kind of them validating the a hat is a disguise.
Yeah, people don't pick up on it. So I thought that was a funny little like tie-in.
Yeah.
But then you get to the school and Zoe, is that the popular girl's name? Was there, and she's like, oh well, I used the gym, it's got good lighting for TikToks. I'm like, what the fuck? But then at that point I'm like, holy shit, this is like the worst nightmare. In my head, this is like the worst nightmare for a superhero, because so many people now know who she is.
Yeah. As Zoe came around the corner, I turned to Jenna and I was like, Kamala's really shit at secret identity.
Yeah. I was like, because everything we know from like Batman and Spider-Man is like they're all trying to keep their secret identity, and then this just feels like she's just telling everyone.
Do you know what I think it's going to play into in the end? It's going to play into everyone in the community knows that she's Miss Marvel, but it's an understanded thing that no one says a word.
Yeah, and they protect her.
Outside the community, no one knows. Inside the community, everyone knows. But like, fuck, are they giving her up?
Yeah.
Which I mean is beautiful and very realistic.
Oh yeah.
Very realistic. Okay, I can't delay anymore. We need to talk about the end.
Okay.
So we get
post-credit scene end.
No. The end of the actual show, not even the post-credit scene.
Okay.
That makes me think you haven't picked up on what I'm about to say.
I don't know. Now go.
Oh shit! Bruno talking to her at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, about her
Oh,
genetic
sorry. Yeah,
makeup.
that thing. Oh, okay. Yes. I do know what you're on about.
Did you get what that was?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously in the comic she's an Inhuman.
Yep.
And everyone lost their shit when she wasn't going to be an Inhuman. She was going to have cosmic-based powers.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we all know Inhumans are just B-Tech mutants.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they've gone and made her the first confirmed mutant in the MCU, haven't they?
Yeah. So yeah,
X-Men are coming, baby!
So I saw that. Sorry, I thought you were on about like post-credit
we'll
scene
get to
when
that
you.
in a second.
Okay, yeah, that whole thing. I was like, it got to the end, and she obviously still has the bangle on, and I was like, oh, Connor's prediction was wrong. She isn't going to lose the bangle and be using her powers without it. And then that was mentioned. I was like, oh, this is it. He's going to explain that like she doesn't need it, and then it doesn't happen. So that's obviously.
I mean, if she's a mutant, she shouldn't need it.
No, I don't think she does, and I think the post-credit scene kind of confirmed that.
We'll get into that in a second. Me and Jenna have different opinions on that, and neither of us considered the other ones, and I'm going to put them both forward because they're both very viable. But yeah, did you also notice the little bit of music that got played? Did you pick up on that?
No.
So when he said, you've got a mutation, they started playing the X-Men 97 theme song.
Ah, very smart.
Just like very short snippet. So yeah, so the X-Men, mutants are here.
Well, yeah,
first one.
I got that, and I saw, obviously, people were freaking a bit out about that and being like, oh, we're going to finally get X-Men in the MCU.
Yeah. I'm going to say it now. People on the internet, I've not seen any of it yet. People on the internet are going to hate the fact that she's the first mutant purely because she is not white. Because despite the fact that the mutants have always been an allegory for marginalized groups, people hate it when the X-Men aren't white. It's like, you're right next to the point and you keep fucking missing it.
Yeah. Do you know what I'd love now? I'd love if her first introduction to the X-Men is through Deadpool. Because he has the connection to them already, doesn't he? Imagine he like stumbles across her or something. And he's like, oh, I should probably take you to go see these other guys.
But it's really interesting because obviously there's been lots of discussions about how they're going to do the X-Men and with like mutations. Like, oh, surely someone would have been found by now, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be interesting to see how that continues to be played off.
I'm wondering then if
this goes been here in secret.
Well, no, if this goes back to because we don't know that much about damage control and what they've already been doing.
Yeah.
And if you remember back to like, I think it was either the first or second episode I think it was the first one when they are in the police station. He's like, we haven't seen people with these abilities before, whether they have already hunted other mutants and have some in their prison.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know what's going on. Okay, this brings us to a post-credit scene.
Yes.
So, as I've just said, me and Jenna both took this two different ways. So I'll give you my version, and then I'll give you Jenna's version.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get your version and see who you line up with.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought was that, obviously, I've said in the comics, her power wasn't cosmic-based. Her body physically stretched and changed. And one of the first things she did with her powers was make herself look like Captain Marvel. So I took that as her mutation pushing through and it unlocking her mutant abilities, not her Nor abilities, which caused her to change and look like Captain Marvel. However, Jenna made a fucking excellent point. When we see Captain Marvel, she's looking around the room very confused. And Jenna's like, oh, I thought that something happened and they just switched places. So that is actually Carol Danvers in her bedroom, which is why she freaks out. She's like, why am I in a strange place and why is there posters of me everywhere? What did you take it as?
Okay, I'm more like Jenna. So
okay, cool.
So when
So it was me reaching, looking for something I wanted to happen.
I think a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Because of how she reacted in the room, I didn't get the sense that it was Kamala transformed into. I got so the way I
Also, sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
Shout out the comic book accurate Captain Marvel suit, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I like. It's very good. Sorry, continue.
So immediately, so the way my brain took it, and this is, you've got to remember, so at the end of Shang-Chi, we saw them as a little group and they were trying to figure out where the 10 rings had come from. And it was somewhere deep in space. There was like some ping. It was like pinging something. And Carol Danvers was there and she was like, well, I'll try and have a look on my end, wherever the fuck she was at that time. When Kamala sat on the bed, my reaction to what the bangle started doing was like, oh, it's like a beacon. I was like, something's call, because it was doing something different than we'd seen, and I was like, either something's calling it or something's pinging it, and I took it as that, and then whatever was at the other end was Captain Marvel, and whatever she did caused them to switch places, and that was why it was like a weird time warp sort of thing happened. So that's how I took it, and I feel like season 2 or whatever it's what she's going to be back in the Marvels.
The Marvels, yeah, next year.
So I think in that series,
no
film, maybe we'll be figuring out where the fuck they just swapped from, or but yeah, that's how I took it. So that could mean that Kamala is
opening up
fucking anywhere, and this could link it with the 10 rings if Captain Marvel was looking for the 10 rings and trying to find something out there, which could confirm that the bangle and the 10 rings is similar tech. Who knows where Kamala is in the universe?
Yeah, stuff is starting to line up, and Kevin's little comment about the next couple of months should clarify some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now it's just giving us more questions, but I mean, there's going to come a moment in the not too distant future where we go,
yeah, all that shit from before now makes sense.
Yeah, there's going to be a film or a series where everything just goes.
Mm-hmm. Can we also, now we've talked about the stuff at the end that you were dying to talk about. Can we go back to that final fight scene?
Yes.
Because I feel like
fucking sick.
It was sick, and you also finally saw kind of how you always described Kamala's powers as
her beginning.
Yeah, it's just she imagines something and it's sort of she becomes it sort of thing. She kind of did that, and it was like she grew. She had like her limbs were stretched and stuff, and like she finally was kind of. You could see that she'd finally got the hang of her powers and what her capabilities were, and that whole fight scene was so much fun. And a little like I liked, because we said last week we were worried, we didn't know, there was so many different things we felt they had to kind of tie up a bit. One being, are Cameron and Kamala going to be enemies? Are they going to be mad with each other? Like, what the hell was going on there? It seems like I was right in the sense that Cameron's mum sacrificed herself to close the rift, but unintentionally then put that into Cameron.
Yeah.
To which obviously he had no fucking clue and couldn't control it. And I liked how it started off with them on the same side, but then she was forced to tell Cameron what had happened.
Yeah.
And that kind
of a little bit of an internal conflict while they both still wanted the same thing. It was like, I want to have an argument right now, but we're a bit busy.
Yeah, sort of thing. And him, like, when he launched that car at her, but then it went over, and then he was like, oh shit, I fucked up. So that thing of like, I'm not
uncontrollable amount of power.
They really sold that he was like having a very internal struggle in that moment, mid-fight, which is not what you need.
No, really.
Also found it interesting that the damage control woman went against the superior guys. It's like he obviously wants damage control to kind of work more in the
secret.
Yeah, in the dark, and they have like an image to upkeep, where she's definitely more rebellious. So I think she might come back through different means of being like a bad guy.
Yeah.
And damage control is going to be more like okay, we'll leave you be because we know you're actually doing stuff for good.
Yeah. I agree.
But that whole fight scene, then her helping him get out, like breaking a hole in the ground, he disappears.
It's very, very cool. I enjoyed it so much.
I also like that the all the community obviously was there and they came around and then the cops lined up and then they all turned around and faced damage control. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it was definitely good. Much enjoyment.
But I think that covers everything that happened in the episode.
Yeah,
Overall, like I thought it was great. As we said at the beginning,
yeah,
the finale felt like one of the best finales
it
pacing
felt like it
wise.
fit.
It felt like it fit. It felt like they actually managed to tie up a lot of those story ends that we were unsure about without rushing any of them.
Yeah, it was nice to see it done properly.
Um,
But it came at the expense of previous episodes.
yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that matters because look at us now. We're so focused on the finale that I don't really remember the exact things that felt rushed or anything earlier on. So it's like it kind of all works out.
I get what you're saying.
I mean, this kind of ties into. I know we'll get on to 4, but you mentioned it before we started recording about the fact that She-Hulk's now going to be 9 episodes.
I didn't see or hear about this, but now I'm seeing reports that apparently it's 9 episodes. I don't know if we missed this at the beginning and assumed it was going to be 6, but apparently it's 9.
Which might finally address the issues we've been saying. And it kind of lines up with what I was saying, which was like, we're now kind of getting to 2 years into Disney Plus, past their like first planned set of like shows.
Yeah. Maybe now they've realised it needs to be 9.
I feel like they're going to start being more flexible on like show length and let the shows do their thing.
Make the show be the length it needs to be, not the length you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully She-Hulk going up to 9 episodes solves the pacing issues we've seen in all of the Disney Plus shows, while still being entertaining and enjoyable.
Yeah, hopefully.